Real estate made me a millionaire by 35. 90% of millionaires invest in real estate. This is a great way to do it, to build wealth. So it's not easy. And yes, it can be done even right now in this environment. It's harder, but it can be done.
We talk about potential risks. What are the common risks investors should be aware of, and how do you mitigate those risks?
With a little health and a little wealth and a lot of love, that's a life that we live. Suits and Scrubs.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Suits and Scrubs, where we talk about a little bit of health,
A little bit of wealth, and a lot of love.
So I am joined by my co-host today, Mr. Zachary, SVP. He has a strong finance background, has managed over $1 billion to date, and he also reached his Coast Fire number about 2 or 3 years ago. So he is set up quite nicely for retirement and has a passion to help others find that path as well.
Guess how I did that?
I guess we're about to find out today.
Real estate.
It's a concept near and dear to your heart, so you're going to be quite excited talking about stuff today, I imagine. So I will give it over to you.
Thank you. Emily, MD. That's my co-host, who's double board certified internal and in BC medicine. She's pursuing her functional as well as aesthetics, functional medicine and aesthetics certifications. She believes that the power of education through watching this podcast should be empowered by the patient. I may have said that wrong, but honestly, she does believe that quality information should be available to people to make the best decisions for their healthcare. And so that's why we kind of started this podcast. Well, not kind of, that's why we did start this podcast. Fun fact about Emily, if you are watching us on a YouTube, and listen, if you're watching us on our podcast, you're missing out because Emily is wearing my outfit right now. She looks like a fisherman. She looks like she's about to go and do some fly fishing.
Walkabout.
Walkabout. Yeah, you look a little Australian. Yeah, I think you actually look pretty good in my clothes. a little big.
It's going to need a little bit more than these suspenders to keep these pants up.
Well, you're doing it. Your fly's down.
And some, can't even button it. It's all safety pins right now.
Yeah, so we had this thing, speak at your own risk, as you guys know at this point, hopefully, but you guys know at this point. Emily said the word, and she spin the wheel punishment, and she landed on wearing my clothes.
Wardrobe reverse.
Yes. Imagine me wearing her clothes. That's an episode no one will miss, I believe. We'll lose all of our followers. All 2 of you.
So we like to also talk a little bit about our 30-day challenge, which we're just getting started on. We have decided to do some microbiome testing. So we're going to do some stool tests together to see what our baseline is. And then we're going to start Akkermansia supplement, which is a type of probiotic found in the gut. And we're going to do some stool testing after the fact to see if it makes a difference. Yeah. While also kind of implementing some other dietary strategies to improve the diversity of our gut microbiome. Yep.
Gut happy. So if you are one of those people who watch us because of gut harmony and make your gut happy, we have quite a few of you. We're doing it for y'all. So we landed on the 4th, and we do this every 30 days. So I guess we're about due for another. I guess we'll just compound our 30-day challenges, or maybe we'll make this one 60. I don't know. We'll still figure this out.
Or we'll start the 30 days when we start the
testing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Cool.
All right, you ready to get started?
Let's get started.
All right, so we're going to talk about, as we mentioned earlier, real estate today. So the title of today's discussion is Unbelievable.
Unbelievable!
Real estate made me a millionaire by 35.
Real estate made me a millionaire by 35. Guys, check the spreadsheet. I'll be happy to whip it out and show you our net worth. But yes, very, very true. Very passively, I would say. Sometimes. It wasn't easy.
There is some sweat.
There was some sweat there.
Blood, sweat, and tears that goes into that.
Right. There is. It's not easy, but there was some moments where it doesn't seem that hard coming from this side of the fence now. Now that we're trying to divest a little bit, but man, it's so worth it if you think about it. We'll talk more about that in a minute. Sorry, I'm excited about this one.
So let's start with our first segment called Refractions.
Cue music.
Refractions.
In this segment, we'll be reacting
And fact-checking.
on viral content. Get it? Refractions.
So let me pull yours up. Here we go.
I retired at 26, and this is how I did it. When I was 22 years old, I was married super young, and I was thrust into a world where I was a full-time student, I had a full-time job, and my first year I made $18,400. So you know what I did? I decided to take all of my hard-earned money, and instead of like, hey, let's actually buy something stupid like a plasma screen TV or a car, I actually bought a house. No, not a house to live in. My first house I did live in, it had a basement apartment. The rent from the basement covered the cost of the entire mortgage so that I live upstairs for free. You know what I did with all the money that I made on this? It built equity. There's money in here, you hear it? And you know what I did with that money? I took it out of the house and I bought another house. You know what that house did? Made me $130,000. You know what I did with the money from that house? I bought a third house. I used the third house to buy a fourth house. By the time I was 26, I had 25 homes. They paid me $12,000 a month if I didn't work a day in my life. So I quit my job. I became free. Retired at 26, and this is how.
That's a lot to unpack. First of all, this is a great way to do it, to build wealth. And there's a lot of things that have to align here. It's not as easy as he says it is. I guarantee you he's not doing that as much anymore. In fact, his name is Chris Crone. I follow him pretty well. He does a lot of private equity investing, I believe, in real estate. And he's doing like bigger fish. So obviously he's not doing those onesie twosies anymore. Is this a good strategy? Yes, it is. Yes, it is. Is it a good strategy right now? Probably not, because interest rates are so high and the homes are so a lot more expensive. The average median home now is $350,000. So we did a whole episode on that, like what the costs of homes are. But at the end of the day, you still can do it. You just have to do it strategically, and I'll get into that in just a second. And so I want to tell folks that the best way to get started is just to get started. You're not going to learn everything. Back in the day where you don't have access to everything, you have access to everything now, like ChatGPT, you have your Google, your Bing if you're into Bing. You can Google and research anything out there. So if something breaks, or if you need a contract for a tenant, or if you have legal issues, like you can always start there to be as resourceful as possible. And I really love the fact that he said he lived upstairs for free, and then in the basement, he pretty much rented the basement out. I think that's a brilliant strategy. Every time I invest in real estate or buy real estate, Emily knows exactly what I'm talking about because it's something we're exploring heavily right now. But how do we diversify and increase the rental income? I've done that in my entire, like, house hacking is something I will talk about. How do you live for free? I think is huge fan of that, especially if you think a little bit differently than most folks. Get that 3-bedroom apartment and then rent out to your people on Facebook. Yeah, there's risks there, but if you have a system in place, I had a system in place, and I'll talk more about that as the episode goes on. But that saved me all of my money. And so I traveled to 30 plus countries and I invested and I had all these great things going on because I live for free. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of building real estate. I will leave this with you guys. One last thing. 90% of millionaires invest in real estate. It's even said that most people who are millionaires, millionaire status, comes from real estate. It's a great diversification. There's no one that I don't know is not investing in real estate who has a considerable amount of net worth. Get into it. And I'll talk about how you can get into it if you're not making 6 figures, or if you're having, you don't have as much disposable income. You can still do it. I'll show you how to do it. So yeah, that's my reaction. Refractions. So it's not easy. And yes, it can be done even right now in this environment. It's harder, but it can be done.
So that's a little appetizer for the remainder of today's episode, where you'll get a little bit more into the details. But I think we have time for another segment called Bumfuzzle Battle.
Bumfuzzle Battle! In this segment, we define the industry term or definition.
And the other co-host will have to guess what it is.
Well, you know what it is?
What is it?
Okay. So, the word of the day is the BRRRR method. There's no way you'll get this, but really think of it as real estate. So really, really think. I'll give you the first one. Buy. Buy.
Buy. BRRRR. How many R's are there?
1, 2, 4.
4 R's.
Yeah.
Buy.
Think about real estate. It's a method. It's been around for years. So it's funny. People listening probably screaming in the car. It's this.
I don't know. The
Think about it. We've done it.
The BRRRR makes me think of just.
So if you buy real estate, what do you do next?
You reinvest.
You reinvest already?
I don't know. I'm just thinking of our words. Buy real estate, renovate.
Okay. I'll give you that one. Ding. Buy. Ding. Ding.
Rate of return.
Okay, so you buy. It's rehab.
Rehab.
Which is renovate. I'll give you that.
Reinvest.
You love reinvest, don't you?
What other R
Reinvest
words?
is on there, but it's refinance. But that's the third one. Buy, renovate. After you renovate, what have we done?
Reside.
We did reside, but that's not it. But then we decide after we renovated, we then moved.
Rent, and then rent.
Oh! Ding, ding, ding. And then, this is kind of fun. You said reinvest, which is refinance. I'll give you that. And then...
Retire.
Repeat. That was good. You actually did really good. I was impressed. Yeah, so it's buy, rent, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's so perfect for the first Refractions because that's exactly what he's talking about. He said he made $130,000 off that home, and what he did was he rehabbed it. A lot of people live in the house and then rehab it, which I think is a very smart real estate strategy. And you can keep doing this. I don't think it's the best thing to do right now to refinance, especially with interest rates being as high as they are. But I do think that people should take advantage in rehab. And then there's a lot of things you can do here. Bathrooms and kitchens are where you need to spend your money. That's the number 2 areas where they sell houses. Open floor plans, open up walls will be number 3 for me. We can go on and on and on. So you have to make sure you have a really good plan. And so again, there's so much information out there. I remember when I first bought this house and I created my own damn floor plan. I did. You remember that? And I had like 2 or 3 different versions of it. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Have I ever done this before? Hell no. But was I willing to learn? Absolutely. And I'm a little bit of a control freak, so I didn't want someone to come in there and be like, The person who we hired who did the building actually did a better job than what we thought of. But a his and hers closet and created like a drop zone room, which was awesome. It didn't have any built-ins in it, but it was awesome for what it was. So if someone knocks on our door, we can't hear it, which I love because they're not right in there. So that's the BRRRR method.
So let's dig into the good stuff of today's episode.
Good stuff.
So could you share with our audience why you believe real estate is such a powerful avenue for building wealth?
All right. So I will try to keep this episode to an hour. If you guys are interested in things like this, ask a question on our website, suitsandscrubspodcast.com. I can go into really details on each one of these sections in this entire episode. So the biggest one is the real estate appreciation. Since 1987, real estate has appreciated 5% every single year. Now, arguably, it's not as good as the markets. It depends who you ask. I think markets are 6 to 7%, especially this really sexy ETFs, like international ETFs, those technology ETFs, exchange traded funds. It just follows the index. Index funds is probably the best way to say that. They've probably gotten a little bit better. But one thing about real estate, people, it's real. You can feel it. You can see it, and a lot of people feel more comfortable investing in something that they see. So the appreciation alone is something to really, really look at. Second is a rental income. For me, that's not the most important because rental income, unless you're short-term rental, mid-term rental, which I'll talk about in just a moment, it is important. It is something to think about. But the way rents are and the way that the value of the homes are going up, interest rates are going up. So there's not a lot of room to make rental income right now. So if you're watching this a few years later, which hopefully you are, those are not as attractive, but they could be in the future. And so, you could refinance and really try to get a cash positive property. That was never my goal. My goal was to cover our expenses. Our goal was the third one, which is the tax benefits. Mm-hmm. So guys, pay attention. Wake up. The tax benefits of real estate are just one of the most amazing things that you can do. I think that you should talk to a tax advisor if you're a high earner. We do have some doctors listening, and that's part of our target audience. A great way to do it is get an LLC, buy a rental property in that LLC, offset your income by a cost segregation analysis, which means that you can hire someone to do the accelerated depreciation instead of doing the 27.5 years, which is the traditional depreciation. You depreciate, land doesn't appreciate, but the asset does, right? And so you can write that off on your taxes.
The land doesn't appreciate, but the home depreciates over time.
Exactly. It makes sense. So when you think about the basic accounting, when you buy something, let's say we buy a phone, it's going to depreciate over time, right? A car, a house, just because this house is brand new, but it's going to depreciate over time. And so that's one of the great tax benefits is depreciation. I said this last time in taxes, but the best way to get your taxes, most people have standard deductions unless you have insurmountable medical bills or your parents live with them, dependents if you have children. But another really big area is the mortgage interest and the property tax. So when you pay those, you do get tax credits for those. And that's one of the biggest areas next to those few things I just mentioned are really significant for the tax. Other one is the operating expenses, which I absolutely love. So check this out. Let's say that you have a home that you absolutely love and you're living in it. And right now we're living in a very well-traveled city. And you move, but then you want to create a nice space for your guests. You buy the furniture, buy everything. We've done this. And you set it up really, really nice. We have some really cool custom design. We like antiques, so we take antiques. So we have this 113-year-old mirror sitting in our property right now that's painted gold that has accents. It's really cool. Maybe we'll have some B-roll and show you guys some of those properties. Anyway, but you can write those off as expenses, but you can only write off expenses on the income that you make. And so if you look at Airbnb, the best thing I tell people is how do you differentiate yourself from other people? Go wild, go crazy. People like to stay in wacky designs.
Yeah, eclectic,
and you should see it on our properties. Our property is very eclectic. It's successful if every other person is asked to buy your property, which has happened for us multiple times. That means you're creating a space that you should absolutely be proud of. So that's one of the big opportunities. There's something called a 1031 exchange. So what that is, it's just a fancy way. A lot of people know this already, but if you don't, this is something to really get into. If you buy a property and you sell it, you're subject to capital gains unless it's your primary residence. So if you live there for 2 of the 5 years.
And what's capital gains?
The capital gains is like if you sell anything, so the money, Uncle Sam's gonna get his cut. He's gonna get his cut, so you pay taxes on your house and then you sell your house, and if you make a profit on it, you have to pay taxes on it, unless you lived in it for 2 to 5 years, and then you're free to clear up to $250,000 for single, $500,000 for married. I'm going really fast, but these are really just slow me down if you have questions, because this is like really good information. This is how you make money in real estate. It's great for taxes, but a 1031 exchange is you take the proceeds of the house. Let's say you have a house here, and you want to buy a mountain house, which is something you and I talked about. and you take the proceeds and you put it down on a mountain house. So instead of paying taxes, you just roll it over into the next investment. And you just keep doing that. But you have to have a like-for-like investment. Work with a tax advisor on this. When you start getting to this level of sexiness, you need to make sure you have a good team and a CPA. It's just being equipped to ask the right questions. I don't know about you guys, but it's always a tail wagging the dog when I talk to a tax person or a finance person. They have other clients. They're not going to sit there and develop a strategy for me unless I'm like Tyler Perry or somebody or someone really, really rich. You have to know, right? And there's no reason why you shouldn't know. So that's one of the big things. And then this is really interesting. If you have a real estate professional status, there's a lot of benefits of that as well. So let's say you have rentals. I tell everybody, if you have more than 2 or 3 rentals, you should go ahead and get your real estate license because there's so many benefits there because you're technically a real estate agent and there's just so many things that you can do with that, right? Offsetting your rental income, a lot more. Now you have to check in with your company, if they allow that. Some financial services companies don't allow having real estate status. So yeah. Fourth thing is, if you find a good deal, the money will come. They always say that, So using other people's money is a good way. I put down as least amount as possible when I buy real estate. My first house, I was making 6 figures at the time, and I didn't qualify any new home buying because I made too much money, which I think is so stupid. Like, you're a new home buyer. I didn't have a head start in life, by the way, guys. I didn't, I did go to college. My parents, my mom did sacrifice, my dad did sacrifice there, but I didn't have a really big head start in understanding how to navigate all this. I didn't. I just figured out this stuff myself. The reason I bring that is because, a lot of people may get a gift from their parents to put down on their home. That's a huge head start. Be thankful for that because that doesn't happen often. But using other people's money. So they say the best way to become a millionaire is have $1 million worth of property and have renters to pay for that. And yes, there's going to be maintenance or HVAC issues, all that factors in. But at the end of the day, it's better to do that. If you have an emergency fund and you save it for that and you understand exactly what costs are, then you can save that a part of just in case anything happens from an emergency standpoint. And then the last thing is diversification. It's a good way to diversify your wealth building portfolio. And I'll talk more about those methods of how to do that if you're not in a different financial position. Say, I don't really make that much. I make 50, 60,000 or 40,000. I'm not saying that's not a lot, but depending on different areas, I think average household is 40,000 in America. So if you make more or less, there's still ways that you can do this. There is, and I'm gonna talk about this.
So what about for those people who haven't already jumped on the real estate investing train and are new to real estate investment? What advice would you give them before diving in?
Yeah, I think it's really good to build a network of mortgage officers and lenders. And so I don't think you should go to a big box bank. First of all, they don't allow a lot of flexibility because they are a big box bank and they offer a certain rate for this person, not this person. Then it's considered discrimination, which is something these big box banks can. Plus, they're slow. I mean, I worked for a big bank for years. I've never gone through. It's like 3 to 4 months. I don't want to do that. I think networking, Googling is a good place to do that. What I usually do is I have multiple mortgage officers that I've just have relationships with over the years. I've done 6 or 7 major real estate transactions, whether it's refinancing or home purchases. And so one mortgage officer, the house that we're in now, had a construction loan at 2.5%, which is insane, back in 2020. Mm-hmm. They gave us $200,000+ to expand this home, and we live like a mile. We can see the skyline from our house. Like, we can walk, and we're in the middle of all the action. It was such a great investment. I know it was hell, but it was such a great investment for us. So I think it's important for us to have those, because this is what I do. This is a Zach hack. Zach hack. What you do is you get a mortgage and you send that to a competitor. Say, hey, can you do better? And this other person's like, oh, I can get you better rate. Oh, okay. Then you send it to the other person. Hey, they got me a better rate. Well, guess what? I'll pay for your closing costs. Oh, okay. Then you go to the next person. I'll get you a better rate. I'll pay your closing costs, and you don't have to pay PMI. PMI is private mortgage insurance. Now, that doesn't always apply because there are loans that you can get for the Federal Housing Authority, FHA. I think that's right. If it's not, send me a note. There's a process you can go through there, which I'll touch on a little bit later. So yeah, that's some Zach hacks there. But I mean, you go through the mortgage process, you find a lender, you go through the whole lending process, you get to your credit score. FICO and credit scores was our last episode. So if you guys want to beef up your credit scores, that's a really good place for you to start. Do not open a credit card when you're about to buy a house, guys. Don't do that. Make sure your balances are low. Check your credit report. Make sure everything's in the best standing place because it can save you literally tens of thousands of dollars when you buy a home, but based upon your down payment and your interest rate. I'm a big fan of buying down points. You have to do a cost-benefit analysis. So I think I actually did buy some points down on this current home, which I probably shouldn't have done because I did not get the buyback rate, which was 5 years. You know, you pay for yourself in 5 years. I'm just shy of it, but that's okay. So there's just some things just to think about as through, end-to-end mortgage process. I'm telling you I'm not going through the full mortgage process because you can Google that. I'm telling you things that you will not be able to find unless you know what to ask. So those are the very specific things. Does it have PMI? Your mortgage officers, the interest rates, the down payments, like what to do beforehand. I mean, those things you really can't Google and find the answer unless you know what you're looking for.
Yeah, these are helpful little nuggets.
Yeah. Well, and the other thing is, now I want to explain what a long-term rental, mid-term rental, and a short-term rental, because I created my whole strategy based upon this. Instead of me explaining it, since you've been with me, why don't you tell the listeners what they are?
In the hot seat.
On the hot seat.
Again.
Long-term rental. You know what that is. That's easy.
I mean, a long-term rental, I would think, is like a year lease.
Yeah, it's traditional. It's the traditional. So,
and then midterm, I would think more 6 months, six to 9 months.
It's like month to month, like Furnished Finder, corporate housing, 3 to 5, 6 months, 1 month.
And then the short term is more your Airbnb.
Right, VRBO, exactly. Now, check this out, guys. There's different rules according to each one of those. Well, midterm and short term kind of go in the same category. Long term, you could have different tax strategies, and midterm and short term different tax strategies. You think about management fees. Let's say that, hey, I manage it. Like, say, if you manage over 250 hours a year or whatever it is, you are subject to a pretty significant tax benefit because it's your time in the short-term, mid-term rentals. Now, long-term rentals, most people pursue that option. It's not a cash positive option. Sometimes it can be, but they don't really do it for that. I mean, how much real estate do you have to buy to get $400, $500 of cash flow to live? A lot. And it's not passive income unless you hire somebody, but even then it's not passive income. So yeah, I just wanted to differentiate between the three, and I can get to more on that in a second. If you have questions about short-term, mid-term, long-term rentals and what the tax benefits can be, let me know. I won't get into that today. Maybe I'll talk about real estate and tax as one episode in the future.
Yeah, so what path do you usually follow when you're looking for a new real estate investment?
Yeah. So not all real estate is good real estate. It's not. So I will talk about my own personal experience. I'll talk about a friend of mine who gave me permission, by the way. So location. Location is everything. I don't think you can do this in California. The average home there is like $900,000, $1 million. That's a pretty significant, that's a huge barrier to entry, So I think having a good location, to take a little risk. Emily didn't want to take the risk that I wanted to take, so we had a compromise. That's the key to marriage. You want to tell the folks what house I originally wanted?
It was definitely not in maybe a well-developed area.
Right.
And so safety was a consideration.
Yeah.
But it was still, I would say, in the same condition as this house was.
Yeah, it was.
Was still a lot of work. Both were a lot of work.
It was. And I remember going outside and pacing on this one house that you just didn't want to buy. It was next to I think it was next to a daycare. I mean, this house had like daycare, and I was like, oh, do they have kids out there? Because listen, I like kids, but I don't want to listen to the kids next door.
Well, not only about listening, but when the houses are as close together as they are, when you're this close to the city, you don't want anything to happen to the kids if they run behind your car. Or,
Well, listen, I'm gonna be honest. I didn't want to be close next to daycare, neither does she. But I was willing to overlook it because it was like $100,000 cheaper than what we were looking at, and the house was nice. It was pretty well built, and I could have done the basement pretty nice.
Yeah, it was already fully renovated.
It was not like this house,
turnkey ready. Yeah.
Right, and then we looked at some other areas, which was way more expensive, but it was a house in 1900s, but it would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. And once you have an older house like that, you have to replace. You don't know what you're going to get into. You open up the wall, and you're like, oh,
foundation issues.
Yeah. So we talked about location, but also you need to understand like the structure of the home. I wasn't comfortable. I was very comfortable getting a house that was not on a foundation because let's say you have plumbing issues, you have to dig into that foundation in concrete. I didn't want to do that.
The alternative is a house with a crawl space.
Exactly. I think that's important. I think if you do want to get in real estate, you really need to get into the construction, what things cost. I think that's very important. Again, there's so much good information out there. Charlotte is absolutely ridiculous for prices. I wanted to get my driveway done because it's a safety issue because someone swiped my car a few times. Don't worry, it's only Emily's high school car because again, I want to live like no one else and be like no one else. I drive Emily's high school car still, a millionaire at 35. So I'm not bragging. I'm just saying like I want to live differently. I'm digressing, but I think it's important to understand what your local city offers and finding really good contractors. I've curated a list of contractors, and what really motivates contractors is you keep coming back to them. And and they're really fair. They're like family almost now. We'll all have some Coronas and some beers sometimes after we're finished. I always buy them lunch. I really try to take care of them because very hardworking people, and I think it's very important to make sure that that's part of it. That's not on the list, but that's just something to think about. Other one is interest rates. So if you think about interest rates, those really will impact your real estate investment strategy. I don't think right now is the good time. You have to do a cost-benefit analysis, understand your rate of return. Like, do you want to be cash positive? Let's say you see a really good deal. Like, you know what? I'm going to pay $100 and $200 more per month, but it's a really good deal. It's going to appreciate. It's intersecting like the outskirts of the growth and where it needs to go. Look into that, guys. It's not hard to find. It's all online. You just look online.
And if you don't have that,
drive around.
If you don't have any type of benefit that lowers your interest rate, I mean, you always mention you can always refinance.
Right. Yeah.
If you have the ability to wait it out long enough.
Exactly. And you can refinance in a year or two. Interest rates are high, but man, it's a really good deal. I think in the Charlotte market, people don't care about interest rates. They want to buy because there's no available housing. And so we'll let you know on that because I'm trying to sell in my rentals now. So we'll see how accurate that is. That's
I guess the alternative is paying a rent every month, just throwing money away.
Yeah, which I'm a huge proponent of not doing that. There's just some good benefits that you can do for both. And I always talk about cost benefit analysis. So I'm already ahead of myself. Cost benefit
analysis.
Yeah. So return on investment, cash flow, capitalization rate, looking at your expenses versus what it would cost. And this is what I'll say. And I got this advice and I didn't agree with it until now. They say that just buy a house. You're going to learn so much more by taking on a project and just getting started versus not starting at all. If you do too much analysis, it's not going to be perfect. Other example I forgot to mention is one of my friends, her parent passed away. RIP. Do not sell your grandma's house. Do not sell your dad's house. Don't do that, guys. Don't. Try to keep generational wealth. That's what I say. Holding on to these properties. Now, if you sell the house and decide to buy another house, do it. Do it now. Do it. I'm serious. Do it. And so we had this long conversation, and I told her, I said, no, like, you're running away from, sacrifice a few weekends. Do it. You're gonna be glad that you did. And you may not come out on top, but you took your dad's house that was a little dilapidated and you brought it up to the standard. You found a contractor that's so well priced, because some of the things I was seeing that they're doing would be hundreds of thousands of dollars. They got it for like 40, 50,000, which is a lot. I'm not saying it's not. And she's going to refinance. And I said, just do it. Just keep it there and do it. And then do a cost benefit analysis of rent and maybe sell it and then reinvest it in something else. And look at that town. Do you Google it? Are corporations coming to that town? What a friend of mine would look at the United States and actually see Amazon, there's a big Amazon executives, they're going to move in here, and they'll go in there before it happens and buy these $200,000-$300,000 houses, put like $300,000-$400,000 into it and sell it for millions of dollars. It can be done. That's really aggressive, and this person is a trust fund baby, so I don't think that's a very fair example, but it's something you can do, consider.
So we talk about potential risks. What are the common risks investors should be aware of, and how do you mitigate those risks with investments?
Yes, there's risk with everything. A good friend of mine told me this earlier. Choose your hard. And this is probably not going to ruffle the right feathers or ruffle feathers. They say being fat is hard, working out is hard. And I'm in the middle of both. I crushed a whole 12 thing of cookies this weekend. I'm feeling it today, but I worked out today. Being poor is hard. Being rich is hard. Pick your hard. And rich is defined by different things. To me, rich means financial freedom. Freedom to make my own choices. Freedom not let my things own me. I will not. I just this. I have so much anxiety about things owning me, right? And so, that's my spiel on risks. So before I get into the risk, it's harder. It's hard to be in this situation. It's also hard to be in this situation. But I think at this, being on the financial free side of things, as we're moving into that direction, that it was hard. But I chose that hard. It's a lot easier than being this way.
Yeah.
So, one is market risk. You never know what the market's going to do. I always say to people, focus on what you can control. You can't control this one. But when the markets are fluctuating and going crazy, there's opportunities everywhere. Information and knowledge is power, right? And in 2020, we could not find a house. There was probably 3 houses for sale in Charlotte area. It was 2, 3, 4%. This house sat on the market for 30 days, which is unheard of. They're asking a lot for it, and we took a bid on it, and we walked in here. No offense to the person that lived here, but it was a hoarder's home. You could see through the ground in the kitchen, and boxes stacked all the way up, and it smelled of cigarette smoke. It was no one wanted to take on the challenge. We did, and it paid off, and it took a long time. We're over budget, but that was a market risk. It was a market risk, and we found it. We found how to mitigate that. Other one is vacancy risk. Right now, I'm going through that. I am breaking even on my properties. I am in real estate. I have made $1,000, $1,500, $2,000 a month historically for years, and the market's tough. A lot of people are doing Airbnbs now. A lot of people are doing short-term, the midterm rentals, which was what my market was, and so the competition is a lot more fierce and a lot more it's more
saturated.
Tough. It's more saturated.
Yeah.
There's more properties out there. And so I'm breaking even, which is actually not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. It's a lot of work to break even, though. It's a lot of work to break even. And you can't put a price on the psychology of that either, And this is from November to about February is a slower time. And that's unanimous with every area, unless you're in a different area. But for Charlotte, I know that already.
Yeah.
Liquidity risk. So if you buy real estate, it's not as liquid as cash or stock. So it takes a while to go through that whole process, but we're fortunate that we live in Charlotte, so we're in a good standing. There's interest rate risk, and we know what's going on now, so I don't need to dive into that one.
Yeah.
There's regulatory and legal risk. So if you have been paying attention as a real estate investor, I have, countries like Ireland do not want people to buy their houses and buy their properties for short-term rentals.
Well, it's not even just international countries now. It's different
Exactly.
cities. New York.
New York. Yeah, and it's devastating because I could see both sides of it. Imagine having there's a lot of people I know that do this, that put everything they had into short-term rentals, mid-term rentals, has a successful business, abide by the rules and laws, making sure there's no parties, and really just making an honest living. And this is how they make a living. But then again, it increases the home property values because there's not much of an inventory. But arguably, if that's the logic, what about BlackRock and these major companies buying real estate? And you know, someone sent me a meme the other day, and congratulations, BlackRock, you outbid a single mom of 3 kids at a single family home. The fact that homes are commodities, and this goes back into the episode around socialism and capitalism, this is where capitalism is dangerous. Very, very dangerous.
Well, even for us trying to, yes, we were looking for an investment, but we were looking for our first home after getting married, and you're up against these investors that are able to pay cash for,
Exactly.
full cash for the house.
Right.
And so even if we found a house that we liked when we were looking, you have to jump on it sometimes without even seeing the house first.
That's right. And a lot of people
make an
didn't-
offer.
Right. They didn't fix anything. And if you're really creative, and I do recommend this, especially if you are in one of those markets, write a letter and say, listen, hey, I really want this home. I will take care of it. The fact I had someone recently reach out to me was going to purchase my home really got the vision, because it's not for everyone. It has yellow doors. It's loud.
Blue walls.
Blue walls.
It
It's
used
cool
to.
though. It was cool. It was well done. It was very loud. She was up in arms about it, but the interest rates just kind of kicked us, and so she didn't move
in a good
forward.
way.
Yeah, in a good way. So yeah, regulatory and legal risk, and so how to combat that? And I'm gonna give you a Zach attack hack. Yeah, is that a thing yet? I think if you register with your local governments as a first in, and you are grandfathered in, I'm really considering doing this with our properties. That way you represent a good steward of the rules, regulations. You're not bothering your neighbors. Like, I'm very careful who I let in my homes. Like, I don't have hardly any complaints. It has happened. It has. But we dealt with those and pretty swiftly. And so I think we're very responsible landlords when it comes to that, because I'm very sensitive to my neighbors. So that's something to also think about in the future. And of course, the tenant risk. I've had my worst experience. I have 2 bad experiences. One is I had someone throw an illegal underground gambling inside my beloved loft, which was my home at one time. They moved all the furniture around. They smoked cigarettes all night. And this is a loft concrete. So when you smoke in this loft, it does not leave for months. They burnt cigarette holes into my nice couch. They rented a big old
Card tables.
card tables and chairs, and they decided to leave them in there when they were done. And this is where I changed my nightly, where it was $100 that night. So I made, like, with the cleanup, I probably made $75 off this, with the Airbnb fees and everything like that. And I had to pay somebody $1,000 to remove all this stuff in my house. And then they took the key on top of that. So I had to change. It was awful. So my advice to you, short-term rentals, don't do nightlies. Do 2 night minimums, so that way you don't have any scams like that, because most people are trying to do parties and things like that. Awful. I can actually feel my blood boil thinking about that, because I would never just disrespect someone else's home. I would never do that to somebody else. Other one was, I don't allow pets in my units. Someone brought their pet and decided to shut them in the closet. And as a result, they pooped and peed everywhere, and like defecated and urine. Sorry, it's probably the more technical term. All over in the closet. My poor cleaner called. I'm like, who does that? And I reached out to them. I said, listen, you guys got to pay this $500 fee for my cleaner to get on our hands and knees and scrub out the urine from the floor. And it seeped into the hardwoods. Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
Poor dog too.
Poor dog. Yeah. Like, who does that? Like, why would you rent a place in Uptown, and it has no, I don't know. Anyway, I won't get down on that. But yeah, so there you go. There's some risks. The tenant risk, that's my favorite one.
So let's switch gears a little bit and talk more about financing. Once you find that sound investment, what are some strategies for securing funding?
Okay, so I'm going to drop a gem that is not widely known. So this is another Zach hack. This is a huge one. So stop what you're doing. Pay attention. Can I get a drum roll on this one? I call it the Nomad method. Are you familiar with the Nomad method?
Yes, I'm painfully familiar with the Nomad method.
So guys, there's so much to say about this one. In fact, I can dedicate a whole episode to this topic and probably will because I'm very passionate about it. All right, the Nomad method. This is where you buy a starter home, you live in it, you save up, then you buy a little bit bigger, but you don't sell your first one. You live in that one, then you buy your next one. On and on and on it goes. Mm-hmm. So usually you buy the second property, you are subject to 20% down, which a lot of people don't have 20% down. So for investment properties, there's not much you can do around that, right? Wrong. There's two things you can do about it. One is if you have a spouse and you're getting married, I talked about this in Financially Ever After. I had 2 properties going into this marriage. I wanted Emily to get 2 properties, but I also wanted to get married. so I didn't push it too hard, but we found this property which maxed out what your leverage potential was. So she took advantage of the 5% down and the very low interest rate. Now, there is something called an FHA loan. Google it. I'll tell you what it is, but Google it. It's a Federal Housing Association, I think. It's underneath the Freddie Mae, Fannie Mac, whatever. I'm probably butchering this, but what I do know about it is you only put 3.5% down, and you can live in it up to a year. Then you can move and do the same damn thing. So the people out there who are not high earners, who are making 50, 60,000, and you want to get into real estate and you want to think differently and have a legacy and have more, this is for you guys. There's no excuse. You save for a house, you put 3.5% down, live it for a year, and you do it again. Then you do it again, and you do it again, as long and as often as you want. It's probably my favorite way for people who don't have access to much liquidity and funds and who are not high earners. You know, I told my brother about this. I've been begging him to do it because I think he can really make a lot of money in real estate, especially the way real estate is headed. I don't think real estate, most people think real estate home prices are where there are, and we don't see a correction in the future, AKA recession. Correction is such a nicer word. But yeah, I think that's something. So look into it. 3.5% FHA, live in for a year, buy another house. Very passionate about that. And the funny thing is I actually never took advantage of that. I could. And you know what's crazy is you could. So as couples, you can actually, your husband could buy one, your wife could buy one.
So anyone can be eligible for it? It doesn't have to be, you don't have to meet certain income
I don't think you have to meet certain income requirements. I could be wrong with that, but there is a certain threshold of funding. So you can't buy a $4 million house on FH. No. First of all, you can't buy that kind of house on a regular. It's called a jumbo loan, which a lot of people in the affluent, like I'm looking into that because it's like not a product that's highly offered. But there is a certain, in fact, actually, if you get your phone real quick, I'll actually Google it while we're sitting here, and I'll keep talking. I can do 2 things at once. Okay. So the other method is what we talked about earlier, which is the BRRRR method.
So buy, rehab, rent, refinance, and repeat. Did I get that right?
Did you get that right? Did you get it right? All right, guys. Just in FHA 2024. Wow, it's big, a lot different. Minimum national loan limit floor is $498,000. That is a lot less. And you have to have at least a 580 credit score. It's 10% of your credit score is between 500 and 579 down. So, this is a very attractive option for a lot of people who may not have been as responsible with their credit. Like, this is something I strongly recommend And the reason why the government does this is because it stimulates a lot of jobs. It allows people to have affordable housing. It doesn't fix the whole capitalist, everyone buying houses, like BlackRock. And I think Redfin was one of the big ones too. I think Zillow even did this. So a lot of companies were like buying houses like commodities, like oil, corn, like that. So
Yeah.
other one is house hacking. I'm a big fan of house hacking. So house hacking is where you think differently. So I got a 3-bedroom here in Uptown Charlotte, and at the time I think rent was $1,200, and I had found 2 roommates, and it was a revolving door, and they paid all my rent. And I interviewed everyone that came through, and then I had my front office. They did the background check and all that, and I'm still friends with people who I would rent, like great friends with, going to their weddings and stuff like that. It's a good place. Now, you did Craigslist back in the day. Now I think it's Facebook Marketplace to find the renter. Very easy to do. And what I would say is have an emergency fund just in case you can't find anyone. But 9 times out of 10, if you live in a high volume, high traffic area, you can. And ask for references, talk to their references. Like I went in on the interview process. Big fan of that. And house hacking could also mean you live in the basement. I'm a big fan. Emily would be down. I would totally live. I would live in a basement and have rent out the top, and as a nice Airbnb. I would totally do that, which we're going to do something similar. And she's down. Other one I haven't dabbled into, but it's worth mentioning, and this wouldn't be a real estate episode if I didn't mention this, it's real estate investment trusts. This is just where you invest in, let's say there's a duplex or apartment that are standing up, and you raise funds, and you want to invest in that, you can. So yeah, those are some hurdles for people. The Nomad method, get into it.
So what are some of your recommendations for after you make that first step and you start investing in real estate? How would you recommend diversifying your real estate portfolio?
Yeah, so I've always stayed close to residential. I will in my life, I will have commercial. I think there's a lot to be said with commercial. It's a different animal for sure. And I do think some specialized properties. One thing I did not mention earlier, and this is really for the savvy investor, I do think that you can qualify for multifamily housing or duplex, if you would, and use that as the FHA loan, which a lot of people don't want to do that, but you can do it. Mm-hmm. You can buy one of these properties, put 3.5% down, and you live in one of the units, and you're the landlord. Like, how brilliant. Like, I probably would have done that. If I would have rewind like 10, 15 years ago, I would have done that. I didn't know you could do that and really take advantage. Like, why not? You live right there, rent out the place, and then as the asset appreciates, do BRRRR, and then move on. Geographic diversification. So, fun fact was me and Em went to Dubai. I have a really good friend there, someone who used to work for me, and I was strongly considering buying property in Dubai because they give you 100% financing. They're really looking for expat funding, and I have someone there, and they pretty much said that once the properties were being built, they would appreciate hundreds and hundreds of thousands, which is true. I encourage everyone to watch Dubai. Like, there's some, I don't know, Real Housewives of Dubai and some other thing. I don't even watch it because I've been to Dubai and I actually love Dubai. It's such a cool country and very different, very eclectic. But that's something to think about. Also, too, that's extreme international, geographic. So my friend and I are looking in Spartanburg. And I think in the future, I probably will invest. There's major corporations going there. Homes are really, really affordable. And we already have an infrastructure out there. I don't think you should invest in geographic unless you have infrastructure. This is like a property manager or a maintenance person, all of that. You got to have all that defined. The third one is around your investment objectives. Are you looking for cash flow? If you're looking for cash flow, it's probably short-term rental, mid-term rental. If you're looking for appreciable asset, that's probably longer term, so that way it's not so hands-on. Mm-hmm. There's some people that I know actually will keep a dilapidated or debilitated building, and they call it the taxpayer, and they use it as a tax advantage because they offset their income through their other properties. which is really, really interesting. It can work. Other is seller financing. So the really, really rich people do seller financing.
So what is that?
As the name entails. So you're the seller. I'll sell you this house, but I'll create the terms of the loan. Now, I don't think people should do this in a way where it preys on people who can't afford. But I've seen examples where, hey, I want to buy this house, but it's contingent on me selling my house. Well, that's not a good deal for you as a seller, right? But let's say you say this, say, hey, why don't we do this? Why don't I'm the bank, and I will allow you to rent the home underneath seller financing, and you pay me a mortgage payment. And when you sell your house, give me $50,000. And a lot of people are like, oh, that's good. And sometimes it's like you cover your expenses, you get that $50,000 and your asking price. It's to me, seller financing, and this is in small business, that's where you get very, very wealthy. And what I tell people about that, I'll caution people, like you should create where it's a win-win. If you are in a position of, yes, you want to make money, all that other stuff, but I don't think you should take advantage of someone. So that is my big caveat. But you can structure a deal where it's a win-win-win-win scenario. You really can. And now this is one of my favorites. And I told Emily we were going to do this. So me and Emily both have a Roth, and they're doing very, very well. Eventually, we want to buy a house out of these Roths. And we're going to pick a mountain house and a beach home.
You said the word that you weren't supposed to say.
What did I say?
You said beach.
You little beach. You little beach. Did you know I was going to say that?
No, but mountain was my word for the last 2 episodes. And
Are you
didn't
serious?
say it. You've said it twice already.
Jeez, I was on a roll. This is one of my favorite ones. All right, y'all ready? All right, so tell the people why I'm doing this.
So speak at your own risk. I think of a word and I write it down on a piece of paper before the episode. And if Zach says that word, he has to spin the wheel of punishment. Should I tell them what is on the wheel of punishment?
No, we'll just spin and tell.
What's it going to be?
Don't tell me. Don't tell me. Let me see what it is. No! No! Well, you want to tell the people?
So you landed on Dragon Dress Up, which is a costume that was purchased for Mardi Gras. And you will get to wear through the entirety of our next episode.
And guys, if you're watching on camera, I apologize about the bulge that's about to happen because I'm sorry. Well, you looked at me weird.
We'll make sure the
No,
cameras...
we're not. We're going to get viewership. So, yes, these thunder thighs will be out. The only time I will not be wearing suspenders, as you guys know. Okay. So purchasing a house from an IRA. So most people don't know they can buy their house from an IRA. There's a lot of things you can do to set it up, but all the rents. So check this out. Sorry, I get really excited. So let's say you're really, really smart, like we pretend to be, and you buy a house in let's say Jacksonville, Florida, like a really hot area, and you buy that house and you buy it from your IRA. Let's say you have $200,000, you buy it. Then everything that you make from that investment goes into the IRA. Now there is a caveat: you can't technically rent it because it's not technically yours. It's in the trust. So you have to follow those rules. You know, there's a bunch of rules here. You gotta research the rules. And if you guys are interested, I'll break this down because this is something that I will do in my lifetime. And then let's say you're earning $10,000 a month and you just bam, bam, and then it's the property's appreciating, bam, bam, and then all the tax and all the deferment, because as a Roth, you don't pay taxes in the future when you withdraw, and you can just sell it to yourself. And you can do so many things with that. That rocks my socks, y'all. I can just get off on that. So, and the thing is, it's things that I love. I love real estate. I love Roth, and combining the two of those. And then imagine when you're 60 years old, 55, 50, maybe you want to retire really, really early, and you have all these things set up, and you buy these things in the Roth, and you just, I think there's some age requirements there. So fact check me there. But I guarantee you, a lot of people don't know that. So a lot of people may have known a lot of the things I just said. This is one thing I guarantee you don't know. So, okay.
So tell us a little bit more about how to use real estate to build a long-term wealth building strategy.
Well, I will do the pros and cons about that because I think I hit on the long term. So you guys know I'm big pros and cons. So let's talk about the pros of owning real estate. And I think we'll do some charting on the YouTube. If you're driving, listening to us, thank you. If you want to see this, go to our YouTube channel because it'll be there. Anyway, so the first one is recurring income. So properties can have a recurring income. So for example, the cat's out of the bag. Emily and I want to probably buy a $50,000, $40,000 manufactured home, put it in the back of our house. The thing is, we have a real estate approval for a 800 square foot, but it's a cost of $260,000, which is ridiculous, kind of. That's the Charlotte, that's the Charlotte way. Okay, so recurring income. So anyway, so if we buy this house, let's say that we rent it out, it will make $1,000, $1,200, $2,000 if we do a short-term rental. That's very, very possible here in NODA. The pros is appreciation. So usually real estate does appreciate over value. So think about that. Some old timer at a bar said, "You need to buy some real estate because they ain't making no more of it." And he's right. Land, they're not making any more land. I just remember him very, very, very vividly in my brain. He owned like acres and acres. The tax benefits, which you guys know I got a on the tax tax benefits. Well, I think there's a little bit more if you scroll down. Sorry, I don't have these. Our diversification, I think real estate is a great diversification. So if you're investing in the markets, you have your Roth. So you have some small businesses. I think small business is a great way to diversify your wealth. But diversification is a big one. The equity building alone. So the fact that I've held on to a property 3 years after we lived into it and we can sell it and make 250,000 plus, whatever it is, we just cross our fingers and just see what happens. Tax-free because it was our primary residence. That's incredible equity. And I didn't mention this earlier. So we have about 700,000 of equity into our homes combined, 700,000 on the spreadsheet. And so real estate is the biggest investments that we've made, and it paid off the biggest in anything we've done. So we'll always do that. Leverage, you can actually leverage your property, which is a huge pro, right? So let's say that you want to rehab your property and you use the leverage of your home. Like I don't recommend that now because interest rates are so high. Unless you want to go that route, which you can, but that's just something to think about. And then, control of your investment. Like I can't talk about this enough. You put the real in real estate, right? And so it's yours. Part of our passions was creating and curating spaces for people to love just as much as we. And so those are some things. Now the cons, I think the biggest cons is it ain't cheap. There's some high initial costs. We put tons, like tens and probably hundreds of thousands of dollars within real estate. One through the construction loan. So I'm a big fan of OPM, other people's money. The other thing is, just buying furniture. You can do it a lot cheaper than probably what we've done. If you want to put some elbow grease into it, you can go to Facebook Marketplace. Repainting furniture. I have a guy named Brian. Brian, if you're listening, shout out to you. I told you I'll shout you out. He's awesome. He's retired, and he sold me probably 80% of my furniture. And he's a picker. He goes out there and picks it, finds it, and he'll paint it for me, deliver it. He's awesome. Find a Brian. Still talk to him today. One of the cons is maintenance and upkeep. Fun fact: I have the loft, which is a beautiful 2-story, 20-foot ceiling of a city. Because it's so difficult, it cost me $14,000 to replace my HVAC. I have a 10-year warranty on it. I didn't get ripped off, but I do think that I probably could have cut the price in half if I went to a company that has less marketing or more of a mom and pop. So yeah, it is not cheap. That's one time that's happened. We talked about market risk because the market can absolutely fluctuate. We talked about liquidity already. So that's a risk. That's a con. We talked about the tenant issues, you know, caca poopa pee pee head, that dog that pooped and peed in my closet. I don't know why I wanted to say it like that, but I just wanted to do it. Property taxes. Yes, property taxes are a thing. So if let's say you don't own anything on your house, you still got to pay property taxes on it. And in Charlotte, it ain't cheap. And then, yeah, it can be time consuming. So in closing, I'll leave you guys with this. There was a time where Emily was in residency. She's working 100-hour weeks. I just bought a new property. I felt the weight of the world's shoulders on my shoulders. I think I said that right. I started a new job. I wanted to get all my renovations done, all moved. And then I was managing my property myself because I wasn't to the point where I needed a property manager. And I had so many complaints of my couch. And I bought a cover to see if people I think my last straw was when, somebody's kid, they were there and they were eating Snickers and they just smeared it into the couch. And I had an all white couch and I had a cover on it. And then I reached out to them and she said, "Well, don't you watch the covers?" I'm like, "You have to throw these away." But first of all, and I did respond this way, and I don't normally do this. And I was like, "Well, do you allow your child to smear candy into your furniture at home?" I did ask that. I said, "This is really disrespectful. This is a property that we lived into. I take it very personally because this was my property. I lived here. I have so many memories from it, And you have to separate your emotion from business. I get all that. Yes, you can send me notes on that. I don't care. But it's just common decency. Like people not treat your property. And that's why, like, when you price your property, make sure you price it where the guests are going to be good. I'm gonna be honest. Like, make sure that you have a good price point of where you have higher retention of guests if your property warrants that. Our properties did. And so when we had that, and I had to replace the couch, and I bought the couch, and I went there the next day. I worked all day. It was 6 o'clock. I'll never forget it. And I'm sitting there like I'm just scathing because I'm so mad because I had to replace the couch. I had a friend that come over. I had to cut the couch in half, literally, because the couch was so big. I don't know how. We unscrewed the pegs of the couch to get it through the door, and so I had to cut the couch in half to push it through the door. And then I dropped it downstairs and put it in the trash. And then I got HOA violation for that too. But that's a little cherry. If you have an HOA, it's the worst thing. It's the absolute worst thing. I'm digressing. However, and I remember I was just sitting there, and my friend left and had all these flipping boxes of this new couch I got to put it. It was like a modular sectional, which those things are awesome, by the way, and it makes it a lot easier to move. And I was like, oh man, it was like 7:30, 8 o'clock. I'm pouring sweat. Last thing I want to do is this. I was hungry. You know what I did? I stopped. I put a little piece of the couch together and I turned on a TV show. I think it was trash television. I'm a big fan of trash television. And I just sat there and I watched it for 30 minutes. And I took a deep breath in and I changed my whole mindset and perspective. And I looked around and I said, I remember when I first bought this place and I walked in, and I remember when the cabinets were a disgusting oak color and I painted those for a week. This is why it's personal to me. I remember when I walked upstairs and I had concrete and I put floors in place. I did the backsplash myself. I replaced a tile in the bathroom, and I remember watching the fireworks on 4th of July from my 20-foot ceiling, or my glass window. And I just, I can feel myself get emotional right here because because I did something and I was proud of it. And I'm over here complaining about something that's going to help me in the future. And I put that couch together. It was like 10, 11 o'clock at night. And I did it with pride, and it changed my entire mindset around it. And so, yeah, I leave that with people. It can be time consuming, but if you do it in a way that brings you joy, and you know it's going to get you ahead and get you closer to that financial freedom goal, which was my goal, then this is a joy for me. Why rush through it? I got to do it. Might as well be happy doing it. I had the best time watching TV, and I think I ordered something downstairs, got it delivered to me, and I was like, oh, I remember this, So yeah, it was definitely one of those times.
And you have emotional attachments to it because in the properties we always done the renovations ourselves a lot, and talk about our other place that was eclectic and loud, but we painted those blue walls. And we did a lot of the picking out the furniture and decorating ourselves, and so it is kind of nice to go back and relive the memories and see what it turned into.
Yeah. And I think too, and that's what I think moving forward, me and Em talked about this, is when I buy another real estate investment. First of all, guys, I buy these real estate investments for the future of renting it myself. So I'm always going to have a connection to my properties. And I would say I won't be as emotionally involved moving forward because it won't be my primary residence from here on out. It won't. So I won't have as emotional attachment, but it's important. So guys, if you are renters, if you are Airbnbs, like, take care of them. It's a lot of work. It is a lot of work. It's worth it though. It's worth it. And like when we have friends and family come in, like go stay over there. I had my dad and my other mother looking into Betty, Karen, looking into Laurie. But my other mom and dad stayed in the rental and they loved it. And that's great to offer that to, your people,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, that's all we have for today's episode.
Woo!
But tune in next time and you will get to see Zach wear a dinosaur costume.
Oh, geez.
Or dragon costume.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
He's on the hustle, she's on the grind. There's no time to kill. We're saving lives and new deadlines, and there's some holes to fill. With a little help and a little wealth and a lot of love. And that's a life that we live. Suits and scrubs.